Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Today is Feel Good Friday at Church at Home with Rachel. So, today I'd like to talk to you about something that always makes me feel good, and that's camp. I don't know about you, but did you have an opportunity to go to camp when you were a kid? Maybe Boy Scout or Girl Guide camp or church camp or, soccer camp or something? When I was a kid, I got to go to Huron Church Camp, now known as Camp Huron, in the Diocese of Huron, just close to Bayfield, near Goderich in Ontario, on Lake Huron, and it was a blast. I went twice. I went when I was 8, when I was first eligible to go, and I went again when I was 12. And our neighbor Julie from across the street and my sister Jen came with me, and we all got to stay in the same cabin because we came together. And I remember it being formative. I remember the worship being amazing and fun, and the campfires down at HCC not so very far long ago. There was a whooping bird, all those things, those old songs we used to sing around the campfire. I remember the feeling of being very careful not to put my elbows in the table, because you got caught with your elbows in the table at dinner. You had to skip around the dining hall, trying to teach us some good manners and things like that. I remember Camp Olympics and plays, skits that we had to do, and going out at night and archery and polar bear dips, where we wouldn't do this anymore, of course, but we would take our shampoo and our soap and go down to Lake Huron first thing in the morning and do our ablutions, get cleaned up there. Of course, again, we don't do that to the water anymore. It's not good for the environment. But that was a thing back in the day, in the 70s, and it was great fun. And at the end of the week, you got a certificate that said that you participated in the polar bear dip. It was great. But camp was a place where I learned about relationships. It was a place where I learned about what it is to be away from family. This is the first time I ever felt homesick. Was my first time at camp, because I was there by myself. I didn't know nobody else from my church went. I was there with a bunch of people I didn't know, and I was keenly homesick. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with feeling homesick, because those are the very ways that we figure out, we learn how to grow up, we learn how to become a little bit more adventurous, the ways that we learn how to become the people we're called to become. We can't go through life without having the difficulties as well as having the high points. Because imagine if we never had any low points, we wouldn't have any high points. We'd all be like monotonous. And that would be difficult, wouldn't it? Just to go through life never feeling anything great or wonderful or even anything sad. In retrospect, we need both. It's all relative, isn't it? Well, this weekend, I'm about to go off to Anglican Memorial Camp on Clear Lake at Riding Mountain in Manitoba. I know I've said this before, but it just blows my mind that there's mountains in Manitoba. I didn't know that till I got here. And we are having a weekend that is an opportunity for young people to come together. In the past, they've called it Survival Weekend. It's been an opportunity for people, especially from the north, kids who are living in difficult situations, that maybe there's a lot of drugs, a lot of suicide and things like that. And they discovered that some of the young people really needed some time away. They'd come to camp in the summer and then had to wait a whole year to come back to be in a place that was safe, a place where they could trust the leaders, that they could tell their stories, they could speak their truth, they just could disclose the difficult things that were happening in their lives, and find people who love them and would pray for them and try to help them. And so the diocese, under the leadership of one of the most talented priests I've met, came up with this idea of a survival weekend, where they would talk about suicide prevention and strength and resilience among teenagers. And that has gone on for a couple of times, pre and post-COVID. Well, this year we're doing something a little bit different, because we have invited the firekeepers to come. And these are gentlemen they're Indigenous, who have had a rough story, but a faithful story, who are able to come and share their faith and their traditions with the young people. And they keep the fire. They light a sacred fire. They'll light it tonight on Friday evening, and they will tend the fire 24 hours a day until we put the fire out on Monday, when we all go home, because it's a long weekend and we're celebrating. The kids are coming to camp with a lot of volunteers, that we can come together to be a family here for Thanksgiving weekend. And so this fire, the sacred fire, will be tended, and we will tell stories around it. We will have teachings about the fire and around the fire. And these excuse me, The sacred fire tenders, the keepers, the fire keepers, will share of their story, and they're all indigenous people, and they will share their story and how their indigenous traditions meld with and are very quite compatible with the Christian traditions. Too many times the church has tried to say over the years that those ways, those indigenous ways, were the wrong ways, that this was not right, this wasn't Christian, had to be eliminated from their culture, and unfortunately that happened. But there are people who are trying to bring that back, who are trying to help with truth and reconciliation, to help the people relearn, to embrace those traditions that made them who they are, that Creator gave them, that made them who they are. And the fact is that with like every culture, these things are not contrary to Christianity. Jesus didn't teach us that we were to throw things out because they were different. Jesus came into communities and met people where they were. And in meeting them where they were, he acknowledged their traditions and he taught them. And then Paul does the same thing. And he goes into different communities and he teaches them based on how they already worship and who they already are in their context. And so this weekend is very much about recognizing the context of our young people, both from the north and the south, and finding ways that they can share their cultures, that they can share their traditions, and recognize the ways that we together as Christians can do all of these things that are in harmony with, rather than contrary to, who we are as children of God, as children of Creator, followers of Jesus Christ, and people who belong to a rich and beautiful culture of their own. And so we're coming together, and that's what camp looks like in the Diocese of Brandon. And I'm so excited to participate in this, because this is truly the work of Jesus Christ. This is truly the work of the gospel that we are doing. And each of these young people will participate in this. And we'll have good food, because my husband, Padre Rob, is the cook for the weekend, assisted with by one of the young people who would like to go into culinary arts. And they will create meals every day. But then on Sunday, we will have our big Thanksgiving feast with turkeys and potatoes and lots of good, yummy food, all things that we need to give thanks in our traditional Canadian ways, or maybe Ontario ways, I don't know. But the Rob style Thanksgiving, we're going to share it together, and then we'll all go back home on Monday after we finish tending to the fire. We will tend to the fires that God has lit within us, and we'll carry that particular fire with us as we leave. I hope you have a great weekend. For those of you celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope it's a beautiful weekend for you. God bless you. I will see you on Sunday for Gospel on the Go, and on Monday for Thanksgiving Day. Have a great weekend.